Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Wednesday, March 17th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Minnesota game is in 169 days, the game against Michigan in 255 days. The Buckeyes' first NCAA tournament game and the start of spring football practice is now just 2 days away. Today, we're going to talk a little football. My guest is Dominique Smith. He just joined the staff at Buckeye Scoop as a recruiting analyst, focused mainly on the state of Florida. Dominique, first of all, welcome to Buckeye Scoop. Can you let people know a little bit about your background in journalism?
First and foremost, thank you for having me. My background in journalism. So I graduated from the University of Central Florida in 2019 with a degree in journalism. Orlando is where I am, been born and raised. It's where I am now, and it's where it's going to be 91 degrees today. Just had to plug that out as a cry for help because it is very hot here for March. I currently work in Orlando, obviously with Buckeye Scoop, but as a sports clerk, I had some experience working for Florida Runners, covering some of the state's top athletes and teams. I worked the metro region, and so got a chance to see the talent, which some of it relayed to football, but also, like I said, with track and field, writing stories, videos, and doing little story packages. And now I'm with Buckeye Scoop, and I'm very excited. This is a big step for me in my young journalism career, and very blessed and honored to work with some of the best in the business.
Yeah, you're covering a very, very fertile recruiting area, not just for
Yeah,
the Buckeyes, but for the whole nation, really. I mean, Florida
yeah,
is, you know, certainly a crucial state, right near the top of the list for high school football talent. Maybe at the top of the list, pretty much anywhere in the country. It's also a very competitive place for people to try and get players out of. I think the
yeah,
secret is out on Florida. 20, 30 years ago, it was like, oh, we can pull some really, really good athletes out of Florida and kind of bolster your team. The secret is out. Everyone knows. So that is a very competitive place now. You get 3 Power 5 teams in the state, another like 4 Group of 5 schools there. So
yeah.
how does the state kind of divide itself up between all those in-state schools? Are there certain regions in Florida where certain schools are stronger than others?
Yeah, and it's the weird thing about it is it's kind of a weird time with some of the main schools. Miami's obviously on the come up. Florida, has shown a lot of growth and progress um, with Dan Mullen, and then FSU. FSU, got a lot of transfers, with the main one being Mackenzie Milton from UCF and cornerback Bam Moore from UCF, and so it just kind of depends. I know FSU, they're always going to be able to go down in Miami, and grab a couple players. Jalen Knighton, former Ohio State, target. He was actually, considering FSU, ended up with Miami. Obviously, Miami is going to take care, to the best of their ability, Miami. And then there are just weird areas like, Lakeland, for example, that, kind of used to be, and in some respects still is. You got kids that go to the University of Florida there. You have kids in the Tampa region that, tend to flock to Florida as well. FSU does a good job in Jacksonville, in addition to, Florida and everything. And the thing about Florida that I'm not sure people realize, there's a handful of kids who are under recruited. Ryan Turner, for example, an Ohio State target, big Ohio State target. I believe he just got his 4th-star composite from the composite rankings. But as a 3-star recruit, you kind of look at it as like, oh, it's a 3-star. But if he was in any other state, you're easily talking about, a 4-star prospect. So there's a lot of talent, that kind of, I want to say, gets missed because each class, has its fair share of 3-stars. But as I was telling you before the show, what's going to be interesting is the addition of Gus Malzahn at UCF and his all SEC staff, essentially. It seems like there's a lot of kids, that have more interest in UCF that, kind of like, okay, well, maybe, it's worth taking a look there. And so that'll be interesting when it comes to the Central Florida region, because UCF has done a terrible job under Josh Heupel of recruiting the talent that's in Central Florida, and there is a lot of talent in this area. So it just kind of depends, on the state of the teams and, obviously the depth chart and, the development. But I do think now it gets a little bit more competitive because kids are like, okay, well, we can play high level football at UCF, USF, with former Clemson coach Jeff Scott. You know, they're starting to make some moves. So I think just the recruiting, uh, the game and recruiting, if you will, in the state of Florida is going to get a lot more interesting. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned something interesting there, which is, some of these programs are kind of on the way up right now, but they're not, Florida, Miami, Florida State. Like, this is not late 90s Florida State.
Yeah.
Fun and gun, Steve Spurrier, Florida, Urban Meyer, Florida, Butch Davis, Miami. Like, they're good. They're solid. Florida made a BC or a New Year's Six bowl game last year, but they're not what they typically have been. And, this is a conversation I had with Nick Bitar last week about Arizona. When schools are in a state are down, that makes it easier for places like Ohio State to pull kids out of there. So do you get the sense that Florida State, Miami are getting back on track now, kind of on the way back up? And is it possible? Is there enough talent there for all three of them to be at that like really high, really elite level at the same time? Or is that just is it a little bit of a zero-sum game where it's like, well, if two schools are doing well, the third one has to be missing out on too many guys?
Yeah. It's both, to be honest with you, as weird as that sounds, because Miami, you look at just the South Florida region, they did well with the transfers. You saw it last year. And so there's a lot of promise in Miami. They have, he was the number 1 or 2 safety last year, Vontae Williams. What is it? James Williams, also from a Plantation American Heritage. I believe he's committed to Miami. And so they're Miami starting from a recruiting aspect to take, that Dade County, Broward County. They're starting to get a better hold on that. FSU it's going to be a weird one because FSU has a lot of potential, and if you've followed their recruiting, the past few months, they're actually starting to build some momentum. They have many believe that he should be the number 1 player in 2022. He's committed, to FSU as a receiver. They're just picking up talent here and there, and then the transfer. So that's why I think this is going to be really interesting to see how they do this season. If Mackenzie Milton could come back and be the UCF Mackenzie Milton, like he was under Scott Frost, that beat Auburn and everything, and they can show some life. I personally don't see either Miami or Florida State beating Clemson this year, unless, and if they do, I do think they should send a thank you card to Ohio State for just unveiling the formula of how to beat a Brent Venables defense. But I don't see it. I think it's possible, and I think they're going to be more competitive. But Florida is just a massive state when it comes to talent. There's no region, even in the upward, the Panhandle area, where it's, you have the very small towns with like 1 traffic light and everything like that. There's talent up there in the Trenton area, like I said, the Panhandle area. There's still enough talent to go around for all schools to be competitive, and they do a good job of recruiting other states. For the most part, they're kids from Texas. You remember Marvin Wilson, for example. We were hoping that he would go to Ohio State and join Jeff Okudah and Baron Browning. He ended up going to Florida State. So there's definitely enough talent, to go around in the state of Florida. And when it pertains to Ohio State, interestingly enough, there are schools that are always going to, when they come knocking, you're at least going to answer the phone. You're going to at least answer the door. Alabama has always been able, to get talent from the state of Florida. They just got Christian Leary from Edgewater High School in Orlando. They're able to get, some of the best talent. They had Amari Cooper, people like that. And then Ohio State as well. Even when you look at the Jim Tressel days, they were able to get, at least 1 or 2 kids in the state of Florida. So I don't foresee that changing in the near future because, there's some kids, that want to explore. And Ohio State has already shown, that they can go into Florida and get any kid that they want to, Jaheim Singletary to be a perfect example. So as far as the state and can all be competitive, I think they can be, and I think college football is better for it. It makes recruiting, more interesting, and so we'll see. We'll see what kind of shakes out, in the future.
You've mentioned some of the players that are coming in from from Florida to Ohio State recently. That was a topic on the message board a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Who is the best player from the state of Florida to come up to Ohio State? And this is Tony Gerderman and I just finished recording the Buckeye Weekly episode that dropped yesterday. So, we had a conversation about this, and it's like there's at least four answers that I think spring immediately to mind.
Yeah.
That I don't know that there's a wrong answer between them. I think you could defend any of the four, and then below that, I mean, John Wade just had a fantastic career, going to be a very high NFL draft pick. And he's like, he might not be in that top level of the conversation. So to you, do you have someone who is to you the best Florida player to ever come play for Ohio State?
Well, what was yours and Tony's answer? I'm actually interested in that.
Well, Tony ended up landing on Joey Bosa because Nick Bosa had been hurt. And, so Nick Bosa probably could have been, but he just didn't get there because of the injury, missing basically that last season.
Yeah.
Santonio Holmes was someone who I think was the first person that came to mind for either of us. And just if you put him in a Ryan Day offense versus a Jim Tressel offense, like put Ted Ginn and Santonio Holmes on this year's team, it's like that their receiving stats probably look a little shinier than they did back in the day. But
Chris Gamble,
Chris Gamble was my answer because I think you look at Chris Gamble and you have a guy who played on both sides of the ball, won them basically single-handedly, won them multiple games that season in a national championship season. He was doing stuff that literally no one else has done. So I think to me that probably pushes him to the top. But I mean, you want to go with the guy who was the highest NFL draft pick? Like that's a perfectly viable answer. You want to go with the guy who was a Super Bowl MVP? Like that's a perfectly viable answer. I don't know that there's a right answer here, but I also don't know that there's a wrong answer here.
And it's so crazy. You look at some of the talent. You could include Damon Arnett, specifically his last year, because everybody targeted him, and he was a first round pick, with Oakland. I agree with you. I went Chris Gamble, and it was hard. Kurt Barton, he said Santonio Holmes, and you cannot, discount Santonio Holmes. I was interested in what people would say, and they gave great reasons. I personally like Chris Gamble because, like you said, nobody really had that big of an impact on both sides of the ball. And he was electric, in so many ways. And, he did fine in the NFL. He had a good NFL career. The Bosas, I would say this, potential-wise, if we're just going to go based on, potential, it's Nick Bosa, because there were talks. I remember I have a coworker that went to St. Thomas Aquinas with Nick Bosa, and everybody down there was saying this kid is going to be better than Joey. And I remember Joey. You turn on his film, and it was scary, because he just killed defenders. So I would say if you want to go on potential, it's Nick Bosa, but you can't discount Joey Bosa. He got people, say his stats, his last year, but Joey Bosa was getting triple team, half the time, and it's tough. I think if I had to choose just one, I would have to say Chris Gamble, and he was just, and I don't really know if we're going to see anyone like him again. I know LSU's talking about using Stingley on offense as a receiver as well as a DB, but I'm not sure if he would have the same. And that's not, Stingley is an incredible prospect, but I don't know if he could have the same impact on offense as Gamble did for Ohio State. So my answer would be Chris Gamble. And I hope I didn't give anyone too many headaches, trying to figure that out. But it was a tough question. I didn't realize how tough it was until maybe half an hour after I posted it and just started seeing some of the answers.
Yeah, you can kind of talk yourself in circles on that one. The easier question is who's the Mount Rushmore of Ohio State recruits from Florida? You get a very easy top four there, I think.
You think?
So that I think those four guys are a pretty solid top four.
Are you going to go off composite rankings or impact?
Well, There's a whole nother conversation. We try to keep these shows to about 15 minutes. That might be an hour-long discussion.
That's an hour-long discussion.
and we're going to have you back on in a week or two to discuss some specific names that Ohio State fans are going to want to watch for recruiting in Florida, because they are in on, I mean, you mentioned Jaheim Singletary earlier. They've already got one commitment from there. They're in on a bunch of other guys, 2022, 2023s. But I mean, just give everyone a little taste. Like, give us one guy who has really jumped out to you so far down there, and then we'll get to the rest of the list in a week or two.
I really like Kenyatta Jackson, and Marvin Jones Jr. is just his frame, his prospect, his potential, is just through the roof. Especially, Marvin Jones Jr. was a receiver, who switched to defensive end and had a great season. But Kenyatta Jackson, I mean, if you saw him against Jacksonville Trinity in the state championship game, he had a really good game, definitely from the clips I saw. And, he played elite level competition down there at Chaminade. But I'm really high on him. I think, if Ohio State were to land him, he's a plug and play kind of guy. He's athletic. He plays physical. He's very, quick, decisive. And so I think that he's the guy that I'm high on, and I'm really looking forward to see how he does this season.
Yeah, I am very excited to have someone on the ground down there, because there is so much talent down there. We were down there for the national championship game, obviously.
Yeah.
Mark Givler, Tony Gerdeman, and I went to a South Florida Express 7-on-7 practice, and it's just like that guy. Yeah, that guy's going to do one. That guy's going to do one. That guy's going to do one. It's like, all right, that's a lot of.
And it's crazy.
Yeah,
and it's like, I was watching just a little video the other day, and I looked at the kid offers. I'm like, this kid is a Power 5, kind of player. And I think the fun thing for me, at least, is they did a reclassification of the state and the teams and stuff. For whatever reason, they decided to do this like every year. It makes no sense to me. But the good news is you're going to see a lot of Ohio State prospects in the same classification. There's a lot of 2023 prospects, that are in the Central Florida area, in addition to the state of Florida. And, just getting a chance to see them match up on a Friday night in a non-playoff atmosphere. There's some of these teams are in the same district. I'm really looking forward to that, and it should be fun.
Yeah, that is going to be awesome to have you down there covering all that, because there is, like you said, there is a ton of talent. That's a lot of names to know. And, you go through the list of Florida players Ohio State's pulled out of there. It's like, there's a lot of impact there. So that's going to be fun to watch. People who are going to want to follow that and follow you on Twitter and find your work. Let people know where they can find you on Twitter and what you've got coming next at BuckeyesScoop.com.
Dom Smith _news. Well, let me make sure, because I'm as crazy as it is. I thought I had it, and I was like preparing for it. Let me make sure that I'm not leading you all astray. Yep, it's Dom Smith _news on Twitter. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can shoot me a message. Or if you want any of my fried chicken recipes, which I put on the board, definitely reach out about that. I am a connoisseur and an expert in that. So, and the project I have, that should be out within a week. One of the questions on the board was, why do kids in Florida, come to Ohio State? What is it about Ohio State that they like? What's their perception? So, going to try to talk to a couple people, have an interview today, and going to get that answer. And I hope it's something that everyone likes and that they have a better understanding of.
Well, we are very happy to have you on the team at BuckeyesScoop.com, and looking forward to that, and looking forward to having you back on in a week or two to talk about some more specific recruits. Maybe talk a little chicken. I am not opposed to a delicious plate of fried chicken. So yeah, we'll have to have you on to maybe talk about that a little bit as well. So
yeah, man,
we appreciate it. Thank you very much. And
Absolutely.
Dominique is just one of the wonderful reasons to become a member at BuckeyesScoop.com. You can just sign up today. You have access to all of our great team of insiders. We are crisscrossing the nation. We've got someone on the ground in Arizona. We got someone on the ground in Florida. We are all over the place now. So the only place you can find a team like that is at BuckeyesScoop.com. You can sign up to become a member today. That also gives you access to our Ask the Insiders board, which he was talking about a little bit ago. Lots of fun conversations about football, cooking, golf, whatever, like whatever you want. There was a conversation about there was a conversation about HVAC on there the other day, and it was like, oh, I learned something. All right.
Yeah.
If you're a homeowner, that matters, believe me.
Yes,
so so that is a very active, fun community. So make sure you sign up at buckeyescoop.com. Also, make sure you check out all of our great podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify. Wherever fine podcasts are sold, you can find our podcast by searching Buckeye Scoop. You can subscribe right there. Also, leave us a 5-star rating and review. One last thing, youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. Always free, all great content. Lots of, we have new interviews up with Chris Holtman and some of the Buckeye basketball players that we posted yesterday. All of our podcasts go up there. When we're scouting players in person, we end up putting film up there. There's a ton of stuff, and you will, if you're not interested in anything there, like you just are not interested in college sports, like that's there is something there for everyone. And if you go to youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop and hit that subscribe button, you'll get a notification every time we post a new piece of content. So then it'll come right to your phone, and you'll be able to say, "Hey, I'd like to watch that," and you click a button, and ta-da, it's there. So we could not be possibly making this any easier for you than we are. So all you have to do is hit subscribe at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.